spoken to you a lot about explicit instruction, but I haven't really described what it is and what it is not. So it's time that we take that moment. Explicit instruction is skill-based. That means that you're teaching a specific skill, but it's not always teacher-directed. Sometimes the students are active participants in their own discovery of what it is. It is not repetition and practice of the skill. Explicit instruction is holistic. What that means is that anything can be taught explicitly. It's not just facts and procedures. You can teach anything explicitly. It's just going into detail about what you're teaching. Explicit instruction integrates smaller learning units into meaningful wholes. That means we take small pieces and we teach them all on their own, and then we put them together and explicitly teach the whole thing. So it's a lot of breaking big ideas down into small parts and then putting them back together. It is not teaching small parts and keeping them away from their main context. So if we're teaching comprehension, it has to be in a meaningful context. It has to be in a real-world situation. It has to be in a literacy situation. It's never the skill by itself. Explicit instruction is always developmentally appropriate, and that means that our instruction will meet our students' needs and you will differentiate. It also means that explicit instruction might not be to your whole class at the same time. You may have individual explicit lessons, you might have small group, and then once in a while you do have that whole group explicit lesson. It's definitely not one size fits all. Explicit instruction is constantly monitored by the teacher to make sure the students are understanding what you're teaching. If you are teaching a specific skill in isolation, then you need to know if they're getting it, because if they're not, you're wasting your time and theirs. So you're constantly informally assessing how that lesson is going and are they getting it. This is pretty easy to do because you're only teaching one thing at a time, and so you pretty much know by the lesson's end if they understand what you've taught them or not. Explicit instruction can be used in any sort of diverse context and any area of the curriculum. It's not just for basic skills. It can be used, with anything you teach. Students like explicit instruction because it's specific and they know exactly what they're learning and they know if they've learned it at the end. It's not boring. It's not something that they dread. It's a time where they're engaged in something specific. And lastly, explicit instruction is important to the learner because they are engaged, and throughout the lesson we ask them to self-monitor and really direct their own learning and participation. So it's not just the teachers giving a lesson and doing all the talking, it's interacting throughout the lesson, and students also are going to give you feedback about their thinking, and they're going to self-assess. Am I getting this? Do I need more help? A lot of thumbs up, thumbs in the middle, thumbs down, and that's explicit expression.